Welcome to the Physical Therapy San Pedro podcast. This is episode 63, and the topic today is From Clinician to CEO, How I Built a Sports Physical Therapy Business and What I'd Do Differently. I'm your host, Dr. Janae Brown. I'm a physical therapist and owner of Physical Therapy San Pedro, a sports performance center in San Pedro, California. So this episode is all about starting a business, and a lot of people think that, or owning a business too. And a lot of people think that owning a business is this glamorous thing and it's all the bells and whistles that you see owners maybe having authority and being able to do things they want to do. But owning a business is definitely challenging. And a lot of what we learn when we own a business is on the fly. No one teaches you how to run a business in school, especially physical therapy school. And so you do a lot of pivoting and growing and learning and making mistakes. And so this episode is specifically about how to start a business and grow a business and some things that you guys can learn from me. PTs ask me all the time about ownership and entrepreneurship, and PTs are interested in how to start their own business. So because this is my 10th year in business in 2026, this is like a big deal. I just thought it was a good time to sort of be vulnerable and honest and reflect back on the last 10 years and just do this episode on my own and give you guys just a different episode about what it takes to run a physical therapy practice. And this is my first podcast on my own. I've never done a podcast before. I realized as I was setting up and doing everything, I was like, this is my first one on my own. So bear with me because I've never done it on my own and I'm probably going to have to pivot, something I've learned really well to do as I move through this podcast. Who is this episode for? This episode is for PTs who are considering ownership. Is this you? Are you a natural born leader? Are you thinking, hey, I don't want to open my own practice. I don't necessarily like the way things are in clinical practice now. I want to do things my own way and different. If that's you, listen up. I got a lot for you. This episode is for clinicians who are interested in leadership or business. Maybe you don't want to own your own business, but you want to be a leader. You want to know how to get into leadership. What are some steps you need to take to do that? This is for you. Maybe you need some advice. Maybe you need some guidance on how to be a better leader. That's for you. This is for entrepreneurs in sort of the health and fitness space. So maybe you're not a physical therapist, but you want to be a leader in fitness or in healthcare, or you want to open your own business as a healthcare provider or a fitness instructor. A lot of what I'm going to talk about is going to translate over. So this is an episode for you. And this is also just an episode for our patients and clients and the community, the local community of San Pedro, or anybody who has ever interacted with our organization. To get to know how Physical Therapy San Pedro got started and how it was built. So here we go. Let's go for this ride. So the entrepreneurial spark for me, was always that I wanted to own my own business. I pretty much knew early on as a clinician in my career that I enjoyed being a clinician, but that there are certain things that I didn't like about the clinics I worked in, the organizations I worked for. And I knew early on that I wanted to do things my own way. If you know me, you know I like to do things my way. I'm a natural born leader. It's hard for me not to give my opinion or want to take on leadership tasks or just want to be helpful. So that's sort of in me already. I'm a risk taker. I'm not scared to do new things and try new things. So for me, I knew that I needed to be an entrepreneur to just really be happy in my life. And also, like early in my career, I realized that, I really wanted to deliver better care. If you've been in a physical therapy clinic before, or had physical therapy in order to survive as an outpatient clinic or an organization that, treats patients outpatient. You have to see a good amount of patients in order to cover your expenses and cover your costs. And I wanted to figure out a way not to have to do that because I wanted to deliver better care to my patients. I wanted to spend more time with my patients. And I knew that if I could do that, I could I could help them get better quicker and that they would enjoy their treatments with me as well more. I also wanted a sustainable income. Physical therapy has a cap on what you can make as a physical therapist. And I wanted to make more money than that. I wanted to be able to provide more income for our family. So that was another piece of that pie of wanting to become an entrepreneur. And then I also wanted to be able to continue to learn on my own terms, take courses, learn things that I felt were going to help me as a clinician and a sports physical therapist or working with athletes. So I knew I wanted to be able to continue to learn and grow. And lastly, like owning your own business is really an opportunity for you to do things you want in terms of your schedule. I wanted to be present for my daughter's events. I have a daughter, she's actually 21 now, but when I decided to wanting to open my own business or decided to have that thought planted, she was in like 6th or 7th grade. And I just wanted to be able to be present for her athletics. She's a swimmer. For her school events, I wanted to be around. I knew I had to work, but I wanted to be able to pick her up from school if I could. I wanted to be able to be present in her life. And so these are all the reasons for me personally that I thought, I want to be an entrepreneur and I have what it takes to do it. So let's start figuring out how we get there. And as a clinician, I really did my best to put myself in a lot of different environments to learn. I worked, in an outpatient Pilates clinic and got a Pilates certification early on in my career. I worked in an outpatient orthopedic clinic that had a 50-50 neuro and orthopedic split. So I was exposed to working with orthopedic patients and the neurologic population as in that clinic. I also had to do weekend rotations in our hospital because it was an outpatient hospital clinic. So I got exposure in the hospital and could work with really anybody that had any injury. And I did a little wound care as well. My CI in school when I was in school, one of my rotations, my CI was a wound care specialist. So I learned some wound care. I really tried to set myself up so that any patient that walked through my door, I could treat and I could help and I wasn't scared to work with them. And so clinically, I feel like I was there. I was ready to take on any patient that I wanted and needed to help. But I did not have the business skills. So PT school doesn't teach you how to be a, CEO, doesn't teach you how to open a business. Most professional schools don't, right? Physicians don't learn how to run their own practice in school. They learn how to be physicians, right? So fitness instructors learn how to, teach classes and be personal trainers. And we all don't technically get that business skill in our professional certifications or doctoral programs or master's programs. A lot of times in professions, you won't get that. So I knew that in order for me to get that experience and learn those things, I needed to go into a leadership position to start. I needed to figure out how to lead people, manage people. I needed to learn how to hire and terminate, interview. I needed to learn how to staff the clinic, how to manage staffing and know, who do I schedule when, what, where. I knew I needed to learn how to oversee a staff and have difficult conversations and have conversations that would need to be had if, you had employee concerns or issues with patients that had a problem with maybe a clinician or employee or a staff member. So I early on decided about 5 years into being a PT that I was going to look for a director or a clinical director position. I came across a director of rehab position. It was in skilled nursing, which this was an area that I hadn't worked in yet as a clinician. But I thought, I don't see how I wouldn't be able to do this based on my experience at that point. I felt pretty confident. And this was a really good opportunity. I was given the opportunity to be a director of rehab, even though I had not been in a leadership position, just based on my desire, my skill set, and the opportunity was presented itself. So I took it. So I went into skilled nursing as a director of rehab, and I learned, how to staff, how to schedule. I learned how to make tough decisions. I did a lot of training, clinical training of my staff. I learned how to do big things. And shortly after becoming a director of rehab, I ended up overseeing 2 or 3 clinics in the local area. And then within a year or two, I ended up overseeing, getting the opportunity to oversee the Southern California region for that company. So that was somewhere between 10 and 12 clinics that I was overseeing. We added on the Central Valley at some point, and I was kind of overseeing a lot of California for this company. And I really enjoyed it. For me, it was an opportunity to be at home in terms of where I was working, in terms of my workspace, but go into different clinics, make sure they were running well. Sometimes I had to travel to get to clinics that were in the Central Valley, or travel, to get to clinics that were a little further from where I lived. But this was a bigger leadership opportunity because now I'm overseeing directors of rehabs. I'm dealing a lot with different disciplines in terms of nursing and physicians, and I'm having to develop those personal relationships with different professions. So this was really great for me. And what was nice about this was I had support from the organization itself. The organization itself had an HR team, which was a fantastic HR team. I love them. The organization itself, and they guided me. If I needed to know what to do in this situation with an employee, they were guiding me. They had their own policies and procedures. We followed those. So a lot of what I was able to learn and attain was through the company's model. It wasn't my model, but that gave me structure and gave me oversight and guidance and mentorship. And that was really great for me to be able to have that under my belt before I really decided to go out on my own and open my own clinic. In 2016, I was really getting the itch to start a practice. And that was my 11th year in practice. And I was getting burnt out on skilled nursing. I was getting a little bit burnt out on overseeing, the traveling. And I knew it was time for me to get back into treating patients and, seeing patients one-on-one. That's what I love to do. I love to see patients. I always tell my staff, if I'm not treating patients, I'm not happy, because that is what I, really thrive in and excel at. It's what brings me joy. Running a business doesn't necessarily bring me joy like that. I love being a leader and I love leading, and I like to be able to help more people through this, but it's not the thing that lights me up, right? So what lights me up is treating patients. So I remember having some conversations with some close friends, and I was trying to encourage them to start a business with me, and they were not interested in doing it, but they were supportive and encouraging to me. And I knew I needed, at this point, I had several skills under my belt from working as a director of rehab and as a regional director, but I did not know some things that relate to just being a business owner that I needed to learn. So I started to get online. I started to look for resources. I found a book about starting your own PT practice. I read that. I got a lot out of that. But I really felt like I needed my handheld. And I'm one of those people that I need to go to school to learn. I like to be in class and in front of the instructor and ask questions. And I really felt like I needed someone to mentor me more one-on-one. So I came across a program by Dr. Aaron LeBauer, And it was really a cash-based PT program. And it was a way to help PTs start their own cash-based practice. And I was intrigued by it because I did not necessarily understand and know the insurance model very well. And I thought this is an opportunity for me to open my own practice, but maybe not have to deal with insurance. Just do cash, find cash-based clientele, keep it simple and easy. Just me, the patient, and maybe, a PT aide if I needed some help. And so this program that Aaron Labaro had was a step-by-step program. It was one module at a time. I can't remember even how many modules it was, but several modules. And each module taught you something different. There were modules about, the things that you need to get in order first. You need to get your NPI, you need to get your tax ID, you need to set up a general liability policy, you need to set up a workers' comp policy if you're going to have staff. You need to set up a professional liability policy. You need to get your business, set up through your city. There was all these things that needed to be done. And so what I did was through his program, I kind of worked each one of those steps. And I'm like, okay, I did this and this and this and this. And he also really guided you on how to get yourself, market yourself in the beginning. So get yourself on Google and Yelp and ways to get your name out into your own community. His process was to, rent or obtain a small space in a wellness center or a gym or something that keeps your overhead low instead of going out and getting all these loans and having this money you had to pay back for all these expenses for your lease and for all your expenses, which are a lot. Rent something small, keep working and build your practice and, while you're working, and then step away from work once your practice was, pretty much sustaining for you. And essentially I worked each of his modules. And when I was done with it, it was like, go get your lease, go look for your lease. And that's what I did. I started looking for a lease in 2016. I think it was around August, September, October, somewhere in that area. I signed a lease in December of 2016, and I moved into my office and I started to take patients. And I've probably had my first patient somewhere at the end of December, maybe the beginning of January. But that was the beginning of really me going into independent practice. And I did that for the first part of 2017, where I was just seeing patients and also still working as a regional director. And why that worked out perfectly for me is my company came to me and told me they needed to reduce my position around the same time. And that allowed for me to still have an income through this company and start my own business. So I kind of got lucky in that sense. But I would say that I did do in the beginning a lot of patient care on the weekends and developed sort of my patient care that way, and then started to do after hours. And, so you're going to have to figure that out for yourself. What is the right way if you're trying to start your own business? Everybody does it a little bit differently. But for me, it worked out perfectly where I was able to reduce down, and then I resigned once I pretty much had a everyday schedule. My everyday schedule was filled and I was sustaining through my practice. So that is how I started Physical Therapy that is how I started being in practice. And when I started my practice, I was Dr. Janae Brown, physical therapist, DPT, PT. I didn't have a name for my business. I just knew it was me. And I would say that first year of being in business was probably the most fun year, the most just exciting year. I loved it. I mean, being able to treat patients on my own terms, spend time with them, do things the way I wanted to. It was amazing. And of course, with anything, things grow, right? So that year I had to figure out what is the name of my business going to be? I needed to figure out a logo. I needed to figure out how I was going to market ourselves in the community if I was going to grow. And I really wasn't thinking too much about growing that year. It was just developing a practice and getting people in the door. But I needed to have enough people to keep myself working. And, it was just me now. I was on my own. I had to, I didn't have anything to rely on. It was just me in practice. So I needed to make sure that it worked. So that's the hardest part about stepping out, is the risk taking to make sure that you can handle doing things on your own, and you can build your patient population and your schedule and things like that. But I did, I asked my patients, every patient I had, I asked them to do a Yelp or Google review for me. I got into the community in San Pedro and tried to get into some organizations. I joined the Chamber of Commerce. I tried to show up for as many things that I could to just kind of share who I was. I tried to get around to the local chiropractors and fitness, spaces, gyms, Pilates centers, yoga centers, like anywhere I could where I could get in front of somebody who could partner with me, refer to me, and I could refer to them, and just really get to know who was in our community. And that's how I started my first year in practice. And then we grew, and when we grew and we started growing, and I started to be in a place where I couldn't handle all of our patients, I realized, okay, I'm going to need to get some help. And so I think that was the second big risk I took, was, hiring that first physical therapist to come on board with me and having to pay their salary. I think that was probably one of the scariest things I had to do, is know that I'm hiring someone and their paycheck is going to rely on what I'm doing here. And I need to do things right in order to sustain their life and their livelihood. So that was a big step. Prior to hiring a physical therapist, I hired a front office support. I hired a physical therapy aide who did front office support for me, and also did aid tasks for me. So it was a little bit of both. And that was, really important first. But then once I grew beyond being able to handle our the patients that were coming in the door, I could have turned them away, but I decided that, you know what, I'm going to need to scale at some point, right? I mean, I want to treat all the patients, but I can treat more patients if I get help, if I find the right person or people. And I also maybe want to take a day off and not close and still be able to make money. I want to take vacations. So I started to think this is probably the right thing to do, is to start looking for some help. And so I did. And really from that point on, we grew, and we continued to grow. That was 2017 when I opened. It's, 2026 now. So, or it was 2016 ish, but so we're in 2026 now. So we've continued to grow over these last, 10 years. And, it's been a really amazing journey, and I've learned a lot. And I think one of the things that I learned really early on is that I couldn't wear all the hats. And I think it's very hard as a business owner to come to that realization that I can't wear all the hats. I'm going to need some help. I can't be the CEO, the director, the manager, the educator, the event coordinator, the clinical coordinator, like all the things that you got to do, right? And I needed help. And so I think it took me a while, probably too long, to realize that I needed to start delegating tasks and asking my staff, or putting my staff in leadership positions to help me. I really did a lot more of that last year, where I said, at this point, I realized I can't do this all by myself. But it took me a long time to get to that point, and a lot of mistakes made and a lot of pivoting before I really got there. Another mistake that I probably made was, hiring mistakes. And when you are a small business, your employees are going to stick around, for a lot of different reasons. Usually in a small business, you're going to advance your employees based on loyalty, and they kind of learn their skill sets along the way. They don't always come with skill sets, but if they stay around, you grow them, you help them grow because they're loyal to you and your business. And so But I think a mistake I made probably is not realizing when a person didn't have the right skill set and, maybe um, pivoting and changing their role when they didn't have the skill set versus growing them into positions that they really didn't have skill sets for because they were loyal or they were still working for me. I think that can hurt you. And it's hard because people that grow with your business or with you, they become family and you want the best for them. But leadership is not something that is innate in people. It's something that people, are, you're either a born leader or you're not. And you have to be, competent and have the skill set to do the things that you need to do on a staff. And so, that was one of my hiring mistakes. Probably another one was just, hiring people that weren't a good fit. I think sometimes when you are looking for help, there's a desperation feel sometimes to get somebody in your clinic that can do the job, especially if it's hard to find. Good PTs are really hard to find, right? It's hard to find a good clinician. For my clinic, it's not just about finding a good clinician for me. It's about finding someone who is going to treat the patients like I'm going to treat the patients, who has the skill set and cares about them and desires to figure out what the problem is and do anything they can. And there's not a lot of PTs out there like that. You guys know. So, but I also knew there was only so much that I could handle myself in treating patients. And so I think I made some hiring decisions that with people who just weren't a good fit. They weren't PTSP material, unfortunately. And, yeah, so that was a big mistake, lesson learned, making intentional hires and just waiting it out until you find the right person, even if it takes longer than you anticipate, right? 6 months, a year. Sometimes it's better to figure out another way than hire someone who's not a good fit for your center. So that's something I would have definitely done differently. Things that worked, were letting go. I think that learning how to outsource. As the business grew, I realized I need to start delegating. Like, what is the best place for me as a CEO, owner, founder, a clinician in this space? What's the best use of my time? And the best use of my time wasn't always doing a lot of these things that make the business run. So I, as I had more income and more money that came into the business, I started to release things. And so payroll and marketing, I moved spaces as we grew, which was a great thing because it took us into a bigger location. So, but yeah, really getting the opportunity to, the realization that I can't do it all and I need to outsource. And for me, the best place for me is to work with the patient. And so the more I could do that, the better it's always been for my center. I also realized that I needed help with budgeting and consulting. And I think when you're a business owner, it's you, right? Unless you own a business with someone else, you're making all the decisions. You're having to figure things out, right? So I remember I was on a solo birthday trip, and I think it was around 2021. It was right after COVID, about 5 years ago, and I just needed to get away, to take a break. There was a lot of change happening in our center and I needed to make some decisions about what I was going to do next. And I was really honestly praying on the plane that God would send me someone to help me or some wisdom and some guidance. I wasn't sure what to do next. And I ended up, conjuring up a conversation with the person that was next to me, which I never do because I try not to talk to people on the plane because it's just a great place for me to have peace and rest, right? But for some reason, we started talking. And she ended up being a consultant, and she's been my consultant now for 5 years. But we talked about all kinds of stuff, and she was a former CEO, and I felt like that was absolutely a godsend for me. And this person has been a person on my team since then to help me budget and do, I don't have budget and finance, like do financials. I wasn't taught that. Right. So, and just be guidance on anything and advice on anything I need in terms of the business. So when I struggle with something and I need someone to talk out something with me, or I need clarity, or I want to potentially hire someone new or fire someone, or which I don't do a lot of, by the way. I hate firing people. Those are my worst nights of sleep, is the people I've had to let go, which is less than I can count on my hand. But yeah, just being able to help me direct sort of the future of the business. I've always just done it on instinct and what I think is working. But, having someone to help you field your decision making is really, really powerful. So, it took me, that was almost 4 years in business until I realized I needed someone to partner with and have a consultant. So I would just encourage anybody who's sort of in the space where they started their business, and maybe you're in that space where you started your business and you're struggling. There are a lot of great people out there who know how to advise and partner with you. And I would say find yourself a consultant. If you're an independent business owner, it is an absolute must to have somebody who you can help advise you. So that was a big, powerful thing for me that helped me grow and take my business to the next level as well. Leadership is really difficult, and leading a business is a lot, right? Leadership becomes personal, right? No one is going to treat your clinic and your center like you're going to treat it. It's your baby. You built it. You have built every step of it. And so some hard lessons that I would say that I had to learn and that I would guide you guys all on in terms of leading a business is, here's some just strong things that I would say mattered for me. Don't take resignations personally. This was hard for me. When someone resigned, I felt like it was just like, you're leaving me. Like, what am I supposed to do now? I've put all this time and energy into you. But resignations are not about you all the time. They're about that person. People aren't doing things intentionally to harm or hurt you. They're oftentimes not even thinking about you as a business owner and how it's going to impact you. And it's not because they're not kind or not considerate, but when we make decisions, we usually make decisions that are going to impact us and things that we feel that we have to do and changes that we feel like we have to make. So I would say don't take those things personally. While people are in your center, while you have employees that are working for you, choose people who are going to emulate the morals and values and things that are important for you and your center while they're there. And just know that they might not be there permanently. That their time with you might be temporary. It might be a season, but that's okay. You're always going to be able to find someone else who is looking to partner with you and deliver the care that you're trying to deliver to people. So don't take them personally. Love people while they're there. Don't be hard on them when they leave, unless they left in a bad way, which has happened too. But, when people leave and they burn you, that's a whole different story. But a lot of times people are not trying to do that. They maybe have a life change. They have to move somewhere. They got married. They decided that they can't afford to live where the clinic is. People have to make decisions that are sometimes really tough. And oftentimes, maybe they don't want to leave your center because it is a perfect place for them. So try to give them grace. Accountability conversations. hold people accountable for what they do. I think it's hard. This is hard as a leader um, to have tough conversations, right? Sometimes we don't have the conversations that we need to have because we're scared we're going to lose an employee. But I think it's really important to be honest with your employees and let them know what you need, and be willing to take the loss if they can't do what it is that you need them to do. Um, Ownership requires grace and resilience. So you're going to need to be resilient. If you are not a resilient person, owning a business is not for you. And if you don't know how to give people grace, it's also not for you because people need it. We're not perfect. Um, we all need grace. Yeah. Um, for me personally, I think one of the things that I've always struggled with as a business owner is balancing being a clinician and being a CEO. Like I said before, treating patients, it's what fuels me. It gives me joy. And I love it, but I have to lead. And oftentimes, um, when you're a leader, you have to make personal sacrifices for your business. I've had to step away from my business as a treating clinician because at times that's what the business needed. If I lost somebody at the front desk and I needed to train a new person, I couldn't treat patients, so I had to step away and give the business what it needed. If we needed to market because we weren't getting enough business in the door, I had to step away and market and make sure that we're getting people in the door. Once you have a staff and they're relying on you for their paycheck and for their livelihood, you have to make a lot of personal sacrifices sometimes to achieve that. So, being a leader or being a CEO, it's a mission driven approach, and it can be draining, but it's deeply meaningful. So, I would say that know that as some of you are probably, maybe you don't enjoy treating patients as much as you do managing people, managing a business, then you're going to love this, right? For me, I do love it. I do love all things about running Physical Therapy San Pedro, but not being able to treat patients that's hard for me. And so my goal is always to get back in the saddle and always be treating patients. So that's where my joy is. But you're going to have to pivot and you have to be good with that. You have to know that you're going to have to always do what the business needs, and you need to know everything about how the business runs. You need to be able to step into every single position that the business requires if you want your business to run well. So what am I doing differently in 2026? We're heading into, again, our 10th year. I'm making some changes this year. I made some big changes in 2025. I had to change my billing company in 2025 because they weren't working out. I had scaled from using someone who was doing independent billing for me to a larger company that was doing a larger organization that could handle more of our business. And they weren't working out. So I ended up going with a new company and a new EMR last year, and it's been really great. So the first 6 months, excited about it. I'm hoping that momentum stays. We do treat patients in our clinic that have insurance. We're out of network. That's my model. How I got to the place where I could give my patients more time and still be, successful and grow our business was to take patients in an out-of-network model, which means that I get to determine my own pricing. But I do take insurance. It's just oftentimes our patients have a little bit higher coinsurance. And we do have a high cash pay clientele as well. So people come to us for our skill and for our specialty at Physical Therapy San Pedro. So, but that was the way I got to the place of doing things the way I wanted to do them. And you will figure that out for yourself as well. If you have a certain way, there's always a way to get to the place where you feel like you're being most effective in doing the best thing by your clients and patients. So in terms of 2026, I'm scaling back the business a little bit. I had a social media marketing person who was helping us a lot with our social media and website. I was putting a lot of money into that. And I just feel like this year is about getting back to being authentic. I was super authentic when I first started the business. I was very involved in a lot of our marketing, and I just want to get back to that place. I feel like people are being bombarded with um, marketing, especially on social media. And so I wanted to dial back and change things. So that's something I'm changing. I'm more hands on in terms of running some of our social media this next year and our marketing. Um, so it can be more authentic and more storytelling. I'm going to continue, working on working with local sports organizations and trying to continue our connections with the high school athletics and college athletics in our community. We are passionate about sports. That first year in that I opened the business, we developed the name Physical Therapy San Pedro. We developed the logo. We developed all the branding. And now I'm taking that branding and utilizing all that and connecting that to the community. And so just getting our name out there and continuing to work and get kind of back to that grassroots place of working with our local teams and things like that, getting into the community. And we've continued to do that a lot, but I'm hoping that we can grow that area and that space a little bit more and continue to specialize us in the sports physical therapy arena. I'm probably going to be restructuring our strength and conditioning program. We developed our strength and conditioning program for the center based on the fact that our high school athletes, didn't have a place to train, and so we created a program for them to be able to train post injury. We ended up getting oftentimes athletes that were coming on summers and breaks that needed a place to train that sometimes weren't injured. So it was a safe space to get stronger and get back to sport. But it's been a struggle sort of maintaining that position, getting the right fit, the right person in our center. So I'm doing a little bit of restructuring with our strength and conditioning program. And then, I want to treat more patients this year. So what does that mean? I don't know. I've been struggling with not struggling, but I've been desiring, shall we say, to open another clinic. So that might happen. I might open another clinic in 2026. Or we just get so filled in our doors at Physical Therapy San Pedro that I'm treating a lot more patients in our own center. But part of running a business is managing your expenses and managing my own expenses in the business. And I need to get to a place where I'm treating more patients this year so we can thrive and make money and keep our doors open and be a thriving space. So those are my plans for 2026. Advice I give to you if you're a clinician considering ownership. Number one, grow with the business. You got to grow with the business. It's going to change and you're going to have to grow with it. You can make decisions along the way. I do want to do it this way or I don't want to do this way. Not all growth is required. You can decide that you're not going to grow, but you're going to have to make changes and you're going to have to change yourself to grow with the business as it grows. Start small. I mean, it's my second piece of advice. Don't try to do something big because you can put yourself in a lot of financial debt. Start small, build your practice, build your center, keep your expenses low so that you can survive. Be smart about how you do that. Don't go out there and get a bunch of loans that you can't pay back and stress yourself out and create a situation where potentially your center or your clinic has to close. Number 3, don't fear failure. You're going to fail. You're going to do things wrong. You're going to make mistakes. Don't fear it. It's going to happen. Own your mistakes. Okay? Own your mistakes. Your staff, they want to know that you're not perfect. They want to know you make mistakes. They see them. They make mistakes. You call them out on their mistakes. Own your own mistakes. Take accountability for what you do wrong because you're a human being and it's okay that you're imperfect and they're going to respect you more for it. and your patients. Own your mistakes, clinicians. Own your mistakes with your patients as well. Delegate what doesn't serve you. If you are not thriving in an area, delegate it out. If payroll's not your thing, go find a payroll company. If marketing is not your thing, get someone to help you with marketing. If you don't know how to do a budget and you are struggling with financials, get somebody to help you with that. Delegate the things that you struggle with so that your business can be successful. You can't do everything in your business. Build a team around you who's strong and who can step in for you where you need them to. I have always tried to have clinicians on my team that are strong clinicians that are able to step in areas that I can't, that I need help in. So build a team around you, not just clinicians, your front desk, your PT aid staff, all the people around you. Build a team, build your team around their strengths, and build a team that is strong and can support you. Leadership requires grace. So I said that earlier. Give your team grace, give yourself grace. Both need it. Don't compare yourself to other people. Don't compare your timelines to other people's timelines. Everybody's business is different and unique. That's what makes you, you. So you could be a sports physical therapy business in San Pedro who treats only gymnasts or only football players or only ACL patients. Or you could be a fitness company that only does kickboxing. Or you could be a one-on-one instructor that only works on martial arts. Like whatever you're doing, it's because you're good at that thing and people are going to come to you. People are going to be drawn to you for what you do. So don't compare yourself to other people. Run your own race. You are special in your own way. Hire good people. I've always tried to hire good people. I don't think I've ever really got that wrong. The people that have worked for me have always been good people. And that has always translated over to our patients. And no matter who's been in our space, the people in our space have always been good people. They're not perfect people. They've made mistakes, but they're good people who have the right intent, the right heart. Most of them had the values and, I would say pretty much all of them had the values and desires to deliver the care that Physical Therapy San Pedro wanted to deliver. So, hire good people. Trust your instincts and learn to pivot. You are going to know, you're going to feel what is the right thing to do and what's the wrong thing to do. Trust your own instincts. And when you make a bad decision, pivot. You do not have to, just because you made a decision to do something doesn't mean you have to go full force with it. You can pull back, change your decision, and go in another direction. So get good at pivoting because business owners, we do a lot of pivoting. And then celebrate your small wins. That's so important. I think, at the end of every year, we do a wrap up of the year and it's a discussion with my team where really we're just talking through all the things we did that year and really reflecting on it. And you're going to do so much great in owning a business. If you're watching this right now and that means that you're interested in growing yourself as a clinician or a leader, that's like the step in the right direction. You're going to do so many good things and don't forget those. Reflect on them, celebrate them. A lot of small wins add up to big wins. And so celebrate those small wins. Ownership's not linear. It's not glamorous and it's not overnight. So be patient with the process that you're going to be on. It's built through mistakes and pivots and uncomfortable decisions. And it's tough, but it's super rewarding. So if you've been on this journey with me through this podcast, I hope you were inspired or you learned something new and you were able to take away with you something that's going to help you become a better leader, or maybe a future CEO one day, or a better CEO if you're a CEO right now, or a founder or a leader or a better clinician or a better person, right? But if you want to dive any deeper into this, you can check out our podcast. You can look at our blog on our website. There's a lot of different opportunities to learn more. We do a lot of educating through our YouTube page and our Instagram page. And our podcast. So check out all of our episodes that are up. This is number 63. So there's 62 previous episodes that you can go and learn from. We talk about all things that help athletes, coaches, and our patients, get stronger, better, faster, and just give you guys, insights into certain things that we feel that are helpful tools. So go check those out. We got a lot of different podcasts that you can learn from. If you're somebody who's been following us and tuning in for a while, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new to our community, welcome. We're excited to have you here and educate you and teach you all the things we know. If you're a local athlete in San Pedro, you can, and you're injured and you need some help, reach out to us. We would love to help you. We treat patients in our clinic, and we also do telehealth. So if you're not in the local San Pedro area, we see clients across the world and help them. So we'd love to help you with your injury if you need help with that. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube page, follow, you can get on our email list. There's all kinds of ways to get information from Physical Therapy San Pedro. So get and become a part of our community. You can follow us on Instagram as well at Physical Therapy San Pedro. So I'm going to end with stay strong, stay moving, and I wish you guys all an amazing 2026. Bye.